I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
The unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation.
We believe these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. To secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just power from the consent of the governed.
That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness.
Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer where evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed.
But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security.
Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former system of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states.
We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are and right ought to be free and independent states.
That they are absolved from allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do.
And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death.
Our fellow citizens have a sacred attachment to the event of which the paper of July 4th, 1776 was but the declaration, the genuine effusion of the soul of our country at that time. Small things may, perhaps, like the relics of saints, help to nourish our devotion to this holy bond of our union and keep it longer alive and warm in our affections. Even should the cloud of barbarism and despotism again obscure the science and liberties of Europe, this country remains to preserve and restore light and liberty to them. In short, the flames kindled on the 4th of July, 1776, have spread over too much of the globe to be extinguished by the feeble engines of despotism. On the contrary, they will consume these engines and all who work for them.
May the foundation of our new Constitution be justice, truth, and righteousness. Like the wise man's house, may it be founded upon those rocks, and then neither storms nor tempests will overthrow it.
Do you recollect the pensive and awful silence which pervaded the House when we were called up, one after another, to the table of the President of Congress to subscribe what was believed by many at that time to be our own death warrants?
The New Colossus by Emma Lazarus.
Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land. Here at our sea-washed sunset gates shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name, Mother of Exiles.
From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. Her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor that twin cities frame. Keep, ancient lands, your storied pomp, cries she, with silent lips.
Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore.
Send these, the homeless tempest-tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door.
You sail into the harbor, and Staten Island is on your left, and then you see the Statue of Liberty. This is what everyone in the world dreams of when they think of New York. And I thought, my God, I'm in heaven. I'll be dancing down Fifth Avenue like Fred Astaire with Ginger Rogers. Frank McCourt.
A reading from President John F. Kennedy's inaugural address, January 1961. The world is very different now, for man holds in his mortal hands both the power to abolish all forms of human poverty and all forms of human life. And yet the same revolutionary beliefs for which our forebears fought are still at issue around the globe. We dare not forget that we are the heirs of that first revolution. Let the word go forth from this time and place to friend and foe alike that the torch has been passed to a new generation of Americans, born in this century, tempered by war, disciplined by hard and bitter peace, proud of our ancient heritage, and unwilling to witness or permit the slow undoing of those human rights to which this nation has always been committed, to which we are committed today at home and around the world. In your hands, my fellow citizens, more than mine, will rest the final success or failure of our course. Since this country was founded, each generation of Americans has been summoned to give testimony to its national loyalty. The graves of Americans who answered the call to service surround the globe. Now the trumpet summons us again, not as a call to bear arms, though arms we need, not as a call to battle, though embattled we are, but a call to bear the burden of a long twilight struggle, year in and year out, rejoicing in hope, patient in tribulation, a struggle against the common enemies of man, tyranny, poverty, disease, and war itself. In the long history of the world, only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger. I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it. I do not believe that any of us would exchange places with any other people or any other generation. The energy, the faith, the devotion which we bring to this endeavor will light our country and all who serve it, and that glow from that fire can truly light the world. And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
You will think of me transported with enthusiasm, but I am not. I am well aware of the toil and blood and treasure that it will cost us to maintain this declaration and support and defend these states. Yet though all of the gloom, I can see the rays of ravishing light and glory.
A quote from John Hancock: "We must be unanimous. There must be no pulling different ways. We must hang together."
The Dons, the Bashaws, the Grandees, the Patricians, the Sachems, the Nabobs, call them by what names you please, sigh and groan and fret, and sometimes stamp and foam and curse, but all in vain. The decree is gone forth, and it cannot be recalled, that a more equal liberty than has prevailed in other parts of the earth must be established in America.
Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure.
We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this.
But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note, nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here.
It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion.
That we here highly resolve that the dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and the government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth.
America is known as a country that welcomes people to its shores, all kinds of people. The image of the Statue of Liberty with Emma Lazarus's famous poem, she lifts her lamp and welcomes people to the golden shore, where they will not experience prejudice because of the color of their skin or the religious faith that they follow. Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
We must have courage, determination, to go on with the task of becoming free, not only for ourselves, but for the nation and the world. Cooperate with each other. Have faith in God and ourselves. Rosa Parks.
In the face of impossible odds, people who love this country can change it. President Barack Obama.
I had said that the Declaration of Independence is the ring bolt to the chain of our nation's destiny. So indeed I regard it. The principles contained in that instrument are the saving principles. Stand by these principles. Be true to them on all occasions, in all places, against all foes, and at whatever cost. Frederick Douglass.
On this 4th of July, I echo the words of our Declaration of Independence. All men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among those are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I find the words from this song from long ago to be very appropriate today. Come, senators, congressmen, please heed the call. Don't stand in the doorway. Don't block up the hall. For he that gets hurt will be he who has stalled. The battle outside ragin' will soon shake your windows and rattle your walls. For the times, they are a-changin'. Much like the times in the late 1700s, there's a call for freedom for so many of our citizens. Freedom to be heard, freedom to speak to power, and freedom to live in a world where the color of your skin, your choice of whom to love, your right to clean air and water, and your chance at the American dream is eroded steadily by those in power. These words by Bob Dylan give me hope that the freedoms we hold so dear might finally be possible in my lifetime.
To celebrate Independence Day as we shelter in place, I want to share a defining moment in our history brought to my attention by my daughter Priya. Together, we want to share the powerful dissent that Supreme Court Justice Frank Murphy of Michigan issued against the majority opinion in Korematsu v. United States in 1944 to allow President Franklin Roosevelt to force the internment of 112,000 Americans of Japanese descent during the Second World War. Justice Murphy condemned the majority's decision and rejected his reasoning by stating,
I dissent, therefore, from this legalization of racism. Racial discrimination in any form and in any degree has no justifiable part whatever in our democratic way of life. It is unattractive in any setting, but it is utterly revolting among a free people who have embraced the principles set forth in the Constitution of the United States. All residents of this nation are kin in some way by blood or culture to a foreign land, yet they are primarily and necessarily a part of the new and distinct civilization of the United States. They must, accordingly, be treated at all times as the heirs of the American experiment, and as entitled to all the rights and freedoms guaranteed by the Constitution.
This blistering dissent rings true today as we struggle to make sure the cry of Black Lives Matter results in permanent, sustainable change. So finally, in the words of Dr. Martin Luther King, we will not be judged by the color of our skin, but by the content of our character. I take encouragement and inspiration from the words of Supreme Court Justice Frank Murphy, but most importantly, I'm inspired by the leadership of our young people like Priya, who will be carrying the baton of justice forward. Many thanks to State Senate candidate Michelle Siegel for inviting us to participate in this unique celebration, and happy Independence Day to all.
On this day, we celebrate the founding of the United States of America and the signing of the Declaration of Independence. What makes this document so remarkable is not that it is a declaration of war, but rather that it is a statement of the founders' intent to build a nation on ideals and not blood ties or a creed. As Jefferson wrote, our rights are unalienable, but it is up to us, the people, to safeguard those rights. We wish you and your loved ones a very happy and safe Independence Day.